Hi, everybody. Welcome to Toolkit Tuesday. Hope you guys are doing well and sheltering in place and adjusting to all this new normal and are optimistic about um, things opening slowly and getting back to some sort of normalcy with a new take on safety and awareness. But I hope you're doing well. Today, I wanted to share some thoughts I'm having around content, event content specifically. And I've gotten a lot of feedback about the Toolkit Tuesdays that people are enjoying the messaging and we're providing some thought provoking content. And our goal when we created Toolkit was to allow event planners to come and share and to really discuss top of mind issues and challenges and concerns that event planners are facing. And although we're juggling a lot right now, I really want to talk about the process of evaluating content and how content is showing up in virtual events, things to consider, experiences that we've had around content, good and bad, and really just talk about the most important part of a show, an event. I think that, I've always said content is king or queen. But I believe that content programming, the sessions, the topics, the speakers, that's why people gather. They certainly want to come together and have a good time and network and sell things. But I think that they want to be informed, educated, challenged to think of things a new way from someone's expertise or their perspective. And so I really believe that even in moving from live to virtual events, content is king. And I think we have some cool new ways to do content, things that we should be considering. But content is why they're spending the money and their, most importantly, their time, because of the content. And then I think secondarily, who's there and the ability to advance their network and their careers by being at a live event and making connections. But they're driven by the content. And oftentimes when I'm evaluating whether or not I want to spend my time or money at an event, the first thing I look at is the agenda. I want to know who's going to be sharing from the stage, and in our new scenario, who's going to be sharing from the screen. What is their background, their expertise? What perspective will they bring based on what roles they have? I look at job titles. I look at what companies they're from. I look at making sure they have a diverse lineup of people to add to the opportunity to learn from them. So I think that content is critical. And I hope that as planners are trying to decide whether or not to go virtual, their still number one priority is, what do we want to share? Now, what we're finding with content is that even though people can binge watch 6 hours of Netflix, the ability for people to stay plugged into a device and learn is shorter than it is at a live event. I'm convinced people walked into a ballroom and sat down and started checking their email, and they probably weren't paying attention anyways, but they were in the ballroom and they'd stay there for an hour or so, and it was fine. I think with this virtual delivery, we really are having to be conscientious about not making it short enough and engaging enough so that we capture the interest of the attendee. There's a reason we moved to the TED Talks being so popular, is where you could digest that in 7 minutes or 15 minutes and really get great information delivered in a short, staccato, succinct message. And I find a lot of our keynoters on the stage could probably have said their message in 7 to 15 minutes. What I'm suggesting now in live events is that we really look at about a 30-minute window for people to be sharing concepts, and then some time to engage around specific questions and answers. So shorter content, same decision process around great content, making sure it's compelling, making sure it's relevant, making sure people are talking about trends and tips and techniques. That's why people are coming, is to hear that, to hear collaborative messages with panel discussions. They want to hear different perspectives on the same topic. That's why panels are created. I think when doing a panel, if you're doing it virtually, you need to do just as much prep or practice with that panel as you would have done live. Get those panelists together on a call or and make sure who's going to be kind of taking which question and focusing on which answer. I've sat through a panel discussion and had 3 panelists say the exact same thing. So really that prep work that goes into panel needs to happen when it's virtual as well. So there's some collaboration around how to make the most impactful message given everybody's perspective. The other thing that's important, I think, is obviously to, in your agenda planning, is to make sure you do have those breaks, that you give people their eyes a rest from staring at a device, that there's some fun engagement activities mixed in with great content. And I've learned from doing all these demos and learning all these new platforms, I've learned some things that are helping me develop content. And there is live content, which is, happening. People are taking that in real time. Live content, it's virtual because they may not be in the same room, but it's live and has everything, all the greatness and all the challenges that live content has. When you're in a ballroom and you're on the stage, that's live, and things can happen, and they can say go to video and it doesn't happen, and those are live challenges. But also it's live in the sense that people are feeling very connected to that person delivering that content, fresh, real time. And then, so there's live content. Then there's semi-live content in these new virtual event platforms that seems to be fairly popular, which would be to minimize the technical issues and pre-record your content, whether it's a keynoter or a panel, that you are going in and having a nice clean stream, technological stream of information, and then putting that in the can and then sharing that at the time of your virtual event. And then what people are doing is they're then oftentimes enhancing the semi-live, which is the pre-recorded content. They're enhancing that by having potentially those panelists available for Q&A. So everyone consumes the pre-recorded content and then open it up to have those panelists available to do live, virtual, but live Q&A around what they just said to you in their panel. So I think the semi-live is interesting. Again, it takes out the opportunity for a live show to go sideways. You can really control that. You can buffer it, edit it in a way where you can really make the content refined and then share it and then produce some kind of conversation after they've consumed. I think of that sometimes like book club. Read a book, then chat about it. Watch a panel discussion and then chat about it, either with each other or with the people who are on the panel. And then there's this idea of on-demand content, which is just pre-recorded stuff that people consume when and where they feel like it, not the day of the virtual event. It's just a catalog or library of content that you've produced and put in the can and you've made available on your virtual event site for them to consume when it works for them. And those on-demand pieces can have supporting documents. I've had clients that are putting stuff in a library on-demand content, and then they're having a supporting Q&A PDF that goes, it's attached to that session. So if someone wanted to watch that as a group, they could then have a live conversation or with their internal teams. They can watch the video on demand when it's convenient. If your live event's Tuesday, virtual live event is on Tuesday, and then Friday the group wants to gather at their staff meeting, watch an on-demand video, and then there's kind of a user guide that goes along with that, or a question and answer type thing, so that they can have compelling conversation around what they just heard in the online content. The other thing that's really interesting is we had a lot of success with Ask the Expert over the years at our live events. And let me tell you where that kind of came about. We did a large tech conference for about 15,000 people. And I remember walking the space, and people were 2,000 people in a breakout room, and just watching how people were consuming this content. Talking head, death by PowerPoint, you know what I'm referencing. But we had designed the agenda, and people were taking that in based on how we decided to deliver it to them. And then they had this huge lounge area where they had a thing called Ask the Experts. You can call it whatever you want. But this idea was, I was walking in this 5-mile convention center, and I saw a gentleman whiteboarding in front of another gentleman answering his one specific question. And I remember standing there watching that exchange and thinking, he didn't probably come here to hear the keynoter, and he might have gotten something technical out of the breakouts, but he brought his one question to this expert, and the expert whiteboarded the solution. This gentleman paid $1,500 to come to a conference, and the most meaningful part of the event was probably an hour whiteboard session with someone who could solve his problem. And I remember thinking at the time, this is the customization of content. This is not presuming we know the topics they want to hear. This is creating a space at the time, a physical space for people to connect and customize their content. So we then started incorporating this Ask the Expert one-to-one learning, custom content experience in different ways. One show that we had all the experts with different topics. Like each hour it would change. 1 hour you'd have the lawyers in this Ask the Experts area, and people could come in, and what we did is set up a speed dating, 2 people on a bistro table, and they'd walk through a queue, and we had our staff timing it, and they would literally get 5-minute appointment with this expert to talk about their legal stuff. The next hour we would go to marketing, and we had 8 or 10 new marketing experts at their stations, and we'd start letting people in. We did some events where we would pre-schedule Ask the Experts opportunities, and that was a bit of a challenge because sometimes the experts wouldn't show up, and sometimes there was, the person that had the appointment with them would not show up. They'd get caught up in a keynote and they wouldn't come over to the Ask the Experts. Then we'd have 3 experts sitting there empty because we had these scheduled events. That's when we really went to this more of a airline queue where people could just get their 5 minutes and keep moving, like a speed dating. So Ask the Experts has been popular, and what I'm finding a cool way to do this on virtual platforms is to pre-record the expert's message, right? So everybody can go in and look at, we have this great event coming up, a fashion event, and it's called Meet the Designers. So each designer is going in throughout the day, or they're going in ahead of time, recording a 3-minute video about, I'm this designer and this is my aesthetic and this is why I design this kind of athleisure or whatever it is. So their point of view is being expressed, their expertise is being expressed. And then each of those experts are going to hold office hours, or the doctor is in, and the designer is in, and they're going to be able to go online virtually, and people will have consumed the video, and they can ask questions directly to that designer, just like our physical setup of a speed dating small bistro one-on-one. They can now go in virtually during a set time, and that designer is going to be there to answer people's questions. And so they're going to be taking in the keynote address, they're going to be taking the breakouts, but throughout the entire day, every half hour, a new designer is going to have a recorded message and an opportunity for people to ask them specific questions. So access to these experts is amazing. It's something that people, hold a lot of value in. And again, getting their custom question answered by a pro is super valuable, sometimes even more valuable than the $10,000 keynote speaker, because it was customized for them. So I think that that's really an interesting opportunity here to source experts, pre-record content, and then make them available for people to access them and get questions answered. So the big whiteboard in the 5 Mile Convention Center is now available online on these virtual events. And then the last thing I want to share is I'm trying to understand the value of content. When we used to have a live event, we would figure out our overhead, and we would, invest in amazing content to get people to come out. We'd figure out a cost per person to attend this conference and get this expertise in addition to a lunch and meet people, but we would put a value on that. And, I'm seeing some conferences that are $1,500 tickets for a live 2-day event that are considering doing the events for like $20. When this all happened, everyone had a captive audience. And so people were coming into our spaces, and if we were working remotely or we'd been furloughed, we were happy to take in content. And so I attended probably 3 or 4 free events a day that I would go in, and ultimately it was hosted by, some sort of tech tool that they wanted us to buy their tool. They put on this great content for free, and then they, there was some kind of call to action or ask. And what's interesting to me is to watch the value that's being put on content. And I am all for, part of this Toolkit Tuesday journey has been me wanting to give back to the industry and share what I've learned, and crowdsource ideas and feature experts on our Toolkit video series. And we've done that at no cost because, again, wanting to really kind of advance our, share our knowledge. You have knowledge, but when you share it, it becomes wisdom. And so we wanted to do that. So then we are also have created, we created a live event that we charge money for, because we were sharing 30 years of expertise with this audience, and they were attending a live event, hearing over 20 speakers share their best practices. There was value to that. People were willing to pay. And I understand that, people are challenged to be able to pay for content right now. But I also see masterclass on there for $200 for a membership. I mean, there's still value in people's expertise and their intellectual property. And so I don't have an answer here. I'm just kind of maybe posing this as a thought-provoking question, is how can we hold the integrity of our content by taking that content that we used to charge somebody $1,500 for and put that available at no cost to people? I almost feel, we used to joke about free tickets to live events, and I'd say, well, you're going to have a high attrition rate because people didn't invest anything of their money to come to this event, so we likely won't see them. They're not compelled to come. They got a free ticket. They could take it or leave it. The value wasn't perceived. When people have paid to come to an event, they expect to learn and grow and hear from these amazing experts all that they've learned, and there is a value to that. So I'm struggling with value. We're coming up on our Toolkit Virtual Summit is next Tuesday, May 5th, and we've put a very small value of $39 to join us, and we're going to get really vulnerable and show you how to produce a live event virtually and show you some cool things that you can do with sets and bring in some amazing experts to share their knowledge. And so I feel like torn between, I don't want to ask for, there's all this free content, how can I ask for a registration fee of $39? And then on the other hand, I feel, offended that people think $39 is a lot of money. And we put on the website, if you're not in a position to pay this money, if you've been furloughed, let us know. We'll work with you on that. But it also feels like I feel a little indignant about, really, that's the total value that people are willing to pay to come and hear 20 plus experts teach people how to do better at event planning. So I just want to share that. I hope you guys are thinking through the value of your content, still thinking of ways to innovate around content and delivering content to your attendees, customizing their experience, giving them a chance to consume the content as they want to. Back in live events, we couldn't necessarily record every session. It was price prohibitive. But now we're recording every session, and it can live on in a library where people can access it. So even the virtual toolkit we're doing, for that $39, you can watch that content at any time. Even if you can't be there May 5th live, you're still getting an enormous library of event planning content that is very valuable. So just kind of the thought of the day. Think about content still king and queen. It's still the most important thing. Get creative with your tools to understand how to leverage and deliver great content in a new method, a little bit shorter sessions, adding new features, live, semi-live, on demand, adding those experts and customized content where they can do heavy engagement with a professional or an expert. And then thinking about that value of that content and why it's so, I think it's important for us as an industry to still hold tons of value around people's expertise. I think that is, IP is worth money. That's how I feel about it. And I'm open to conversations. I'd love for you guys to hit me up. We'll post this on LinkedIn and our other social channels. And I'd love your comments, what you're facing and what you're doing around pricing for your virtual events and how you're setting a value to that content. So have a great day. Thanks for joining us for Toolkit Tuesday. We hope that you'll register. Visit toolkitevent.com for our virtual summit next Tuesday, May 5th. And we're going to have a great lineup of speakers share their ideas and their experience with you. And we think there's great value in that. So hope you join us, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.